Money, it affects our everyday life. But how do we make more of it? Manage it. And make sure we make the most of our money. Welcome to Money Mindful, a podcast to teach and support you as you learn to manage your money.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of the Money Mindful podcast. I am your host, Megan Jean Smith. I'm a money mindset coach for women. I help you create an amazing relationship with yourself and money so you can live the extraordinary life you want to live on purpose. All right, before we get into today, I'm just going to say swear bear alert. I think today's episode has the potential to sound like two lady sailors on a night out. So if you've got your kids in the back of the car, kids, these are grown-up words, okay? All right, so speaking of someone living her extraordinary life on purpose, I have my client, Michelle Kevill, on today to talk about all things like rapidly changing your life. And I mean rapidly transform your life. So Michelle is a life coach and host of the podcast, How to Deal with Big Fucking Feelings. She uses psychology to change your mindset and process those big emotions so you can have a better human experience and live the life you want. So she is also my amazing coaching client and has gone from thinking I might be able to be a life coach to running a coaching business in 3 months. Michelle, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show and share like all your goodness with everyone. I want everyone to know your story and your podcast and all the things. Welcome.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I love that with the two women on a sailor swearing. I was like, yep, that's me.
Well, so I was thinking going by our coaching sessions, I'm like, yeah, there's probably going to be some swearing in this episode.
Based off the title of my podcast, there might be some swearing.
Yes. That's right. So listen, I'm sort of, I'm interested to see the direction that this show goes today and what we focus on. But I always do this. Do you want to introduce yourself? Like, how do you want people to know you? This Michelle, current, present in this moment.
All right. Well, I think you've given the intro about me. But yeah, if I give you around, like, I guess I'm just going to start from like the very beginning. Look,
yes.
This time a year ago, I'm being just completely honest and open here. I was going through a lot of stuff. We had COVID. I had a new job. I was moving house. My grandfather wasn't very well. And I think someone said it perfectly. COVID was able to hold up a mirror to all our kind of fears, thoughts, anxieties that we had. And I was a workaholic. I would work from 9 to 9 o'clock. I worked through lunch. My partner saw this, was like, this is not healthy. And then with everything else going on in my life, I really was using work to kind of buffer out of it. And biggest thing I didn't realize at the time is I just didn't want to sit with any of the bad emotions that I was having at the time. Out of absolute pure desperation. And just being completely exhausted, burnt out, like just over it. Like, I mean, just, like being just physically overwhelmed and just out of it. I was just looking up like self-help stuff, and I happened to found some stuff, coaching stuff around. I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm so sorry.
No, go for it. And make sure you share. Make sure you tell us who did you find, all of that, because people listening, they want to know.
Yeah. So what I found was the Unfuck Your Brain podcast by Cara Lowenthal. And I was listening to this woman and I was like, holy shit, like this woman is me. She was like a stressed out lawyer. Her stuff really resonated with me. And it wasn't that bullshit like, we're going to manifest our feelings, or we're just going to think happy thoughts and look at the mirror and smile and miracles will happen. No, like it was literally like, I've been where you're at. I've been at this like level. Like she was literally reading to me the thoughts that she had exactly to the T. Like I have to keep doing this. My job is so stressful. Like hate everything, hate my body. I was just like, what? And then really plainly and simply teaching like the model from like the life coach school, and articulating just how like our thoughts cause our feelings, which lead to actions and results, which when you hear it at the surface level, you're just like, what? Like, what do you mean? And then some of the psychology around it, that kind of like how you can kind of use cognitive bias to kind of flip it almost, so that we can believe like new thoughts and stuff like that. And I don't mean new thoughts like you'll magically have $1 million, but like I'm working to believe I'm valuable, like really basic level stuff. That's what really hit me. Like stuff where you can have like a mid-level basic thought to kind of practice, then take the actions that you want in your new model if you are feeling confident. And then you can start to believe that. And that's how I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is crazy. This isn't real. This proves we're all in a simulation. So I signed up with that group like straight away. And like I was finding it really helpful. I think the thing that I was struggling with though, and everyone made comments, they were just like, you don't want to sit with any of the feelings you're having. I was like, but isn't the aim of thought work to create new thoughts so I feel better automatically? It's like, what? You're telling me I have to process my emotions? I don't want to do that. And that's when I realized that is, I think that's one of the biggest things that you struggle when learning this work. It's when you're starting out, it's sitting with the emotions. It's knowing that they're going to be there regardless, even if you're having, good thoughts. Like some of the negative chatter might be there in the background, just playing, and just being able to accept it. I did a ton of work on that. Like, I mean, a ton of it. It really inspired me to think about becoming a coach. And it fucking worked. It like, I'm not kidding. It works. Like just by simply not resisting it and just allowing it and just like watching the sensations in your body. I was like, hang on a minute. I'm taking something that's like 100% painful to like 50% painful. And I was like, what? And then over time.
So Michelle, break that down though into an example. Like what did that look like in your life? Because I'm sure that there's other lawyers and doctors and professional people listening right now who, like you, don't connect with that kind of manifesting woo or way of speaking. And here, Cara, who is like, she was like she's so fantastic. She's a Harvard lawyer. Yeah, I think that's her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's teaching you how to feel your feelings, how to think new thoughts. But how did that translate in your life? Like, what did that look like for you at work? Because you said that you were working from 9 till 9 and.
Yeah. Well, how it translated was I realized that A, need to sit with the feelings, but B, you work out what, like through an unintentional model, like what you're doing now and, how you're thinking causes you to feel like overwhelmed. And then I was able to be like, hang on a minute, I'm doing this to myself. If I'm thinking I'm overwhelmed, I'm feeling really stressed, I'm taking like basically shitty actions. They're not the best actions. They're like, I'm running frantically. I'm like trying to do 10 million things at once. And the result is overwhelm. It's like, all right, how do you want to actually feel? It's like, well, I'd like to feel confident. If you're confident, what actions would you actually take? Well, I would maybe plan out my time, maybe not say yes to 10 million things all at once, which I started noticing I was doing. And I think a lot of people, especially like I have a corporate job, that's what everyone does. They're like, yeah, I will just take on all the things and I won't sit and take the time to assess and plan out how much of this is going to take my capacity. A lot of comparing to other people, like other people are doing all this stuff and they're okay. They look okay. We don't know what they're thinking. And then the results I wanted to create was, well, like, I'll believe that I can do this work. And then I looked at what I needed to think and stuff. And there were baby thoughts like, I'm working to believe that I'm allowing myself to still learn, or that I have more than enough time. But the key thing is doing the actions from your intentional model and then thinking that thought. So one of the actions for me was not taking on all the things. Like, I was just saying yes to all this work because of other underlying thoughts, which was that my self-worth and value is directly related to my job and people pleasing. Once you can flesh that out and see it on paper, you will see how much you are doing this to yourself. I 110% guarantee you are doing this. I promise you. I promise you're doing this to yourself. When you're all up in your head, you don't know. When you write it on paper, then you can see it. You can see how it's translating. You see the actions. When you see those actions, you ask yourself why. Why are you taking on 20 million different projects? Why aren't you pushing back at work? Is it because you have some fears around what they will say? And really, if you're worried that that person is going to get upset with you, all you're worried about, and this changed my mind, all you're worried about is having a feeling. That's all I was afraid of. Having a feeling of maybe a little bit of like anxiety or shame or something.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't control what they think. I started to implement this. I still remember pushing back on one project with like my manager once removed. Very articulated this whole email. I was very polite about it. I was basically like, look, like, this is my capacity. We'd have to shift some stuff. Like, I was basically setting a work boundary that I've never done before. One of the colleagues, the stakeholders, were a bit like iffy about it, but my manager once removed was like, yeah, that's fair. I was like, what? To be fair, could have had a completely different reaction, but I was prepared to sit with the emotions. That's where processing emotions is so important. When you're doing these things, when you are starting to create this change in your life, it's going to be uncomfortable. The limbic system is not going to be happy. It's like, what are you doing? I like these negative thoughts. They keep me safe. I know what they're doing. Now we're changing it. Like, it thinks it's going out into the wild and that wild bears are going to attack it. All you're going to have is a feeling. That is all when you set your boundary.
Yeah. And what I heard from you then too is it's like we quite literally make up stories in our head, like how we think things are going to play out. Like, we make out these worst case scenarios when in actual fact, when you say no at work, nothing bad happened. And in fact, so many amazing things happen, which I want to share. But how did you get from working with Cara to working with me?
Yeah. So once I was exposed to this work and had an understanding of it, I think it was about maybe it was almost a year in, I started to really apply this to all areas of my life. I definitely worked out, like, through working with you, I had a thought about, wanting to do coaching. One of the big thoughts at the time was like money. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I don't have enough money to do this. And I had noticed as well that my brain, after kind of figuring work out, it was kind of just thinking like, I need more money. It was like, what's a new thing to worry about? Let's worry about money. So I was like, oh, I'm over this. So I realized I wanted that one-on-one coaching. I wanted to speed it up. I absolutely, like I said, I still love the community and group of Unfuck Your Brain, but I really just wanted to be one-on-one with a coach, just working with me to kind of go through these goals that I wanted and I had, and to just speed. I think you said it perfectly. You were like, it's like coaching on steroids almost, because when you're doing it yourself and then when you're doing it in a community, when you're doing it one-on-one with an actual coach, it's like, boom, like you can just escalate all that stuff and get there really quickly. And that's what I really wanted to do. So I guess how I found you is like your podcast. I also know that you were certified with Life Coach School, i.e. you had the understanding of the model, which for me was really key. And look, I'll be honest, I wanted some Australian time zones. I was like, I need someone who can match my time zone. So I was like, this is perfect. So I found you, heard you through the podcast. I was like, yep, this is perfect. This is great. We had that free consultation. I was already like sold, and then I just got even more sold talking with you, just around like what you could offer, like the results that we like you could bring, just fleshing out all those thoughts. And then I just cannot get over how quickly everything like, and I knew this was going to happen, but my brain didn't like believe it. Just how quickly everything escalated. Like it really was thoughts. It really went so quickly. If we look at our sessions from, it was all about like, you know, like, oh, I don't have enough money. I think within a couple of sessions, it was like, I want to be a life coach. And you were like, you can do that. It's like, fuck, I can do it. And then, yeah, I just went from there. It's so crazy. There's like a first page of a book where I'm writing like life coaching stuff. And literally it's like, can I be a life coach? And now I have full on business and clients. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like it really is all your thoughts. I know I would have gotten there, but I would not have gotten there in such a short time frame of 3 months without working with like a coach and you one-on-one to just like, we just attacked each thought that came through. It was just like, boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
You know, like we just.
Whoa. Now I know you're really good at rapidly changing and rapid transformation, but let's slow it down for somebody who's never experienced coaching, right? So, because this is really interesting. And I think this is a key piece that I want you to take away, like listening today, is that because you were saying that you came to me because you thought that you didn't have enough money, right? And you had an idea, like, what was it? Like you said to me something like, you know, I went from thinking that, you know, I might be able to be a life coach to actually running a business in 3 months. Like that's phenomenal. And not only that, you created a podcast. Like you started and executed and now have a podcast out in the world, and you're still working full time. Like that is crazy pants, right? Like you are on fire, but there's a process to this. And I think would be really helpful to flesh that out, because remember when we started, there was a lot of stuff that you had a lot of thoughts around debt and money. And that was like a total money block for you, if we're going to use that language, right? Because that was what, once we did that work, that's what opened the door for you to actually work on what you really wanted, right? Which was to be a coach. So do you want to like just explain like what you mean by that? It's like, because how does that work? Like, how does that work when you unblock some money thoughts and then suddenly you're flying like off out in the world doing what you want to do?
Yeah, sure. Oh my gosh. So like going back in my mind here. I think when I came to you with all these thoughts, I think how it starts is like you just believe them as circumstances. Like you just believe them as so true. And then working with a coach one-on-one, you're able to, like, you can do this yourself. But again, when you're doing it with a coach, you're just nutting out the thought. You're proving almost, we're working together to prove to myself that it is purely a thought. We're looking at it at completely different angles and actually looking and being like, hang on a minute, wait a minute. This is actually like, this is just a thought. And some of the beliefs that I had around money, like around debt, it was so interesting when we went through debt to see how like, I'm kind of okay with my mortgage, but I'm totally do not care about my HECS debt, but I wasn't okay with spending some money on my business or like getting a loan or stuff like that. Just looking, and I didn't even notice that. But you were just like, it's just like so interesting to just go through it, like my thoughts and the messages that I've had absorbed from society around what was like what debt was okay and what wasn't, and how I had just chosen to apply the thoughts onto the same money. It's just money, but just sitting in different kind of boxes. And then I've just applied thoughts to that. and how that is just ultimately like keeping me stuck. And I was just like, whoa, hang on a minute. I didn't even know I did that. I didn't know that I was like okay with HEX, but like anything else that's like debt is so bad. And looking at how like debt is almost neutral and how money is almost just neutral. Like we can't eat it or anything like that. There's so many thoughts that we've learned from society and messages that we've absorbed that we just apply onto money that really does keep you stuck. Because you have thought, it generates it used to generate a really strong feeling for me, and I just wasn't getting the actions or results that I wanted from that.
So what was like the most challenging thing with that? Like with the thoughts about debt in particular, because I think this is like a common block for people. They want to do something. And also, by the way, HEX debt is like student loan debt. That's what HEX is. But like a common thing is that we want to do something, but then we think we can't afford it. Like that's one thing, which also, by the way, is like sometimes total BS. Like people say we can't afford it, and then like literally they'll have like 10 grand in the bank or 20 grand in savings or something. But in their mind, they're like, no, I can't afford this. And this thought just feels so real. And then also, exactly what you're saying, we're quite happy to go into thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of debt to buy a home. But to start a business or to invest in ourselves, like in education, or a coach, for instance, we're just like, oh no, I couldn't possibly spend money on that. So I'm interested, like, what was the cornerstone moment for you? Like what really shifted for you?
I think what shifted for me was just really understanding that these are actually optional thoughts, which takes a while to get to, but these are optional thoughts. Because when you lay down all the facts to me around, well, this is just debt sitting in different buckets and you've applied thoughts, or you have this amount of savings. And like, I remember we were just talking about it. You're like, and if you had this much, would you then feel comfortable? And I was like, yeah. And then I went, oh, actually, no, because I'd want to use it for this and then this. So no. And it's like no amount of money I was ever going to feel comfortable with, because my brain is like a hobgoblin. It's like in this kind of scarcity mindset. It's like, no, I need everything. And realizing that is optional. It's challenging at the start to understand and realize that it is optional. But once, like working with you, when we were able to really flesh out the thoughts from like the facts and the circumstances, and that, Michelle, you're just applying these thoughts to, debt or this amount of money, and just hearing like the different facts and ideas around it, and just like the thoughts and the messages we've absorbed, I was like, oh shit, like it's like convincing yourself almost. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Like we're just picking at the thought. We're like dissecting it. We're like, is this really true? Is this really a true thought? Like, why are you choosing to think this? Like, why are you applying it to this? Then from that, we start to understand some of the, like, I call them root thoughts, like the fear around it. And it was just really just like fear of change, fear of doing something new. If it wasn't for the money, it would have been because like I could, like, once we kind of started to solve that, it was so for example, when I'm like getting, wanted to spend the money to get certified with the life coach school, I remember I was like, oh, I don't think I could handle the workload and like all this stuff. And I was like, what? I was like, brain, you just choose a new thought. Like you solve the money part, and now you're just choosing something new. It's never about the money. It's just your thoughts trying to latch onto something. And money, I feel in society is such like, there's such a focus, there's such a pull on it. And there's a lot of like fear around it as well, and like scarcity that we've been taught. So it's just something for your brain to choose. But I guarantee you the same thing happened with me. I got to the point where I was like, right, I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to do it. And then my brain was just like, you're going to fail. You can't do this with like full-time work, like all these other thoughts. But we had worked together so that I could also like work to challenge those thoughts as well. And I'm doing it now and I'm fine. I knew that was going to happen too. I was like, all right, calm down, brain. You're all right.
Yeah. And so like what I wanted to point out was from what you're saying is that this is something I do with a lot of my clients is that when we go to do something new, our brain goes to worst case scenario, right? And if you don't mind me sharing, your brain was going to, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Like if I spend money on like getting certified and becoming a coach, it's like, I'm going to die sort of thing. I mean, you weren't saying you were going to die, but you're like...
That's what the limbic system just thinks, that I am going to die. But what I'm thinking is like, I'm going to lose the house. My car's going to break down. Someone's going to get sick. Like the dog's going to need issues with its leg or something like that. All these things. And yeah, that translating to like your limbic, I say this all the time, limbic system, the oldest part of your brain, it deals with like fear and it works to protect you. It's just hearing there are bears in the woods and we're going to go out and die. It wants to protect you.
Yeah, but when we try to protect ourselves and we say no to the worst case scenario, right? Like if we hadn't have done this work and you had said no to getting certified at the life coach school, if you had said no to starting a podcast, going out and getting clients, like all these things, if you had said no to that worst case scenario, you would have, actually, sorry, I don't mean to make that sound misunderstanding. If you had said no to using money, like, saving money and going into debt and all of that, what you're also, yes, you would have protected yourself from any of those things, like, getting into more debt, but you would have also said no to all the incredible things that you have created in only 3 months. Hello. Like this is the thing that blows my mind so much. And on top of that, like you had all this, I'll let you share, but you had this amazing stuff happen at work as well. And by saying no to our fears, we're also saying no to best case scenario. And in your situation, and I don't mean this, like, this is what everyone I work with does this, is that, your brain was freaking out about like investing in yourself. But in fact, like you work in a corporate job, you have like a good income, right? And like you were already financially, like you've got a lot of stuff going on that's working really well, but your brain was still telling you this is bad, and you wanted to shut down the idea. And so I think this is such an interesting area to cover, because I'm sure that you listening has this same thing. It's like you want to go and do something, but you hold yourself back because you're totally focused on the worst case scenario. And if you had focused on worst case scenario and not actually taken action, tell everybody what the best case, like everything that you've missed, that you would have missed out on. And we're only talking about what you've achieved in this 3 months. Like imagine what else is going to happen, like as you move forward. Like, let's just celebrate and really share that, because I just think it's so amazing what you've been able to do, because you've been willing to question your thoughts and really like challenge your brain. Like, is that true? Like, what if I'm wrong about that? Right. And that's what you've done. And so please share everything that you've created. Let's just like totally bask in all this amazingness.
Oh, yes. And I love that too, what you're saying, because life is 50-50. And if I didn't start this, I would have missed out on these amazing things. And the amazing thing was, okay, well, I have clients, and I've been working with them one-on-one, and they've had some amazing growth. Like they gave me some testimonials as well, just so I could share on the website, which was just to see their growth and transformation was amazing. Like I have a website, I have a business, I have Instagram and all of that. I have the podcast out. Look, it's not all about downloads, but just to give some people some stats. I remember a couple of days ago, my partner came to me and he was like, babe, and I was like, well, I was like really excited. He was like, you know, you're ranking 33 in New Zealand's top like self-improvement podcast. I was like, what? I was like, holy shit. Like, what? I was just like, whoa. I remember sharing it as well, just being like, thank you, my New Zealand friends. Just like, whoa.
That is so exciting.
I think within 3 months, I've got almost like 400 downloads on the podcast, which I did not think was possible. I honestly was just like, what? I thought this would take me forever, especially stuff that I had been reading. And just to see how people are resonating with this, like I got some reviews on the podcast. People were like, oh yeah, like she's like, this is quirky, she's funny and stuff like that. It was just like, oh wow, like there are all these good things happening. All the bad stuff that I thought was going to happen, like, I don't know.
But you got to tell us, share what happened at work though.
Oh, I got promoted.
Of course you did.
Yes. It was amazing. And here's the thing to anyone out there who is like, I seriously have to say this, you're stressed out, you're burnt out. I take lunch breaks and I finish at 5:00 and I got promoted. Okay?
Yeah.
Like you can too. Please do not think that this is some special, you know, I'm a special snowflake in a special job. I work in a fast-paced corporation. My job is still the same. The only thing that changed was my actions and like my thoughts. You know, I set those boundaries. I started to provide, I wasn't just doing everything. I was doing things to work on my capacity. I was challenging myself a year ago really hard just to sit with all the uncomfortableness of saying no and people pleasing. I produced better work from it. I set those boundaries, and you know, I ended up getting, like, I got promoted, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is amazing.
This flies in the face of when people say things like, you know, you have to work harder to make more money and everything like that, because no. Like if it's okay if I share what you told me about how you were already doing the work of a manager, like you were giving so much value at work. And so then you got promoted because they were like, well, we should give you a title and the pay to match what you're already doing. So in fact, you're not having to work harder. You're not having to do more. You already were giving the value ahead of time. And then now you're getting paid more money, like for the same work.
The same stuff that I was doing.
Yes, which is...
It's all of... Yeah, I know, look, it's insane. And I talk about this as well on like my podcast. We have this real obsession with like output, and I really talk about deep about where this kind of came from and everything. But it's nowadays, 21st century, it's not about output. It's not about if you work 16 hours. It is about value. So if a person can get the same value that the person that takes them 16 hours to do, and they can do that in maybe hypothetically like 5 hours, like you're going to get more done. Do you know what I mean? You're going to get more value work done. To do that, you really have to sit with yourself and work out, you know, how do you work best? What's your capacity like? You know, being able to say no and communicate that and sit with those negative feelings, and actually create that environment for yourself. You have to do that though, and you have to do the work. It's really, really, it's challenging in the sense that you have to separate from the thought work, and as in like, you know, practicing new thoughts. It's sitting with the uncomfortable feelings of when you go to do that challenging thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do here with this business as well. But I guess I'd already had some of that practice with work, and that's like, again, inspired me to be a coach. It's just like being able to sit with that. How do you process it? How do you be with that so that you can go out and do the amazing things that you want to do. And now like I said, I take my lunch break. I do my 9 to 5. I got promoted and I run a business on the side.
With 11
yeah.
clients,
Yes.
mind you. Let's throw that out there because that's phenomenal, Michelle. Like it really is so amazing. And like with that in mind, what would you say to someone listening now? Like what's a piece of wisdom or advice that you would say to someone who's like thinking about hiring a coach?
Oh my God, do it. Do it right now. This is your message from the universe. Do it. I know I'm like very much like, no, do it. Hear me right now. Like going through this journey myself, everyone needs a coach. Like it is so transformational. It's not, I think it's not how we used to think coaching was. Before all this, before I found this work, I thought it was just someone who kind of told you what to do. No. A coach literally just takes your mind, puts it on a table and works out what's a fact and what's a thought. And then from that, you can go and you can feel empowered to make the decisions that you want to create in your life. Do not understand how empowering and like that is, just going through it myself. So I would say invest the money in yourself. It is so worth it. You will start to see how you just believe your thoughts as circumstances. I still do it too, but all your thoughts are just circumstances. Who doesn't want a work-life balance? Who the hell doesn't want to believe that they are a good enough mother or, partner, in that like family scenario as well? Who doesn't want to be able to set those like work boundaries or even like try to go for your goal that whether it want to be a business or whatever? Like, why are you stopping yourself? Get a goddamn coach. I say this to everyone now. I'm like, no. Everyone who's like, oh, because some people talk to me like, oh, you coach a lot. I'm like, just do it. You don't understand. Like, trust me. Go out, get a coach, challenge your thoughts, and do the shit you want to do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So amazing. So listen, I want everybody to know about you and your business. So like, tell us what's your sort of area of expertise with coaching? Like who should come to you to get coaching?
Okay. So look, I coach everyone and anyone in like all industries, but I guess you could say my niche or main area of focus is sitting with the uncomfortable feelings. So I talk about it in my podcast, and it's a podcast name, How to Deal with Big Fucking Feelings. Obviously, I teach you how to view your thoughts. We work through how to go through all that. But I think the biggest thing, that's something that like I really struggled with, and I see a lot of, I guess you could say, like new people to this work, is being able to sit and process your feelings. That is, as someone who has gone through this, who used to really resist it and create so much more turmoil, that is what I teach you to do. Because if you can sit with the shitty feelings that you are going to have, oh my God, you are going to make so much change. Because if you just allow yourself to be afraid and realize it's not actually going to kill you, it is just your limbic system having a hissy fit, it's, running on an old program, thinking we're back in the cave ages, and you just allow that to be, it will reduce by like 50% because you're allowing it, you're not running away from it. And then you can go ahead and do the new actions that you want to take. If you want to go set that work boundary, you're going to do it. You're accepting it. You're going to feel afraid when you do it. You're going to have all these thoughts and feelings. And guess what? I guarantee you nothing bad is going to happen. No shark is going to randomly eat you. And you just teach your brain each little time. It's like exposure therapy. It's like, yeah, actually, I can do this. I can do this thing. You're like letting yourself grow. But if you give in to that emotion, if you go kind of believe the fear and stay hidden and like don't go do the thing, you're not going to grow. You will not grow. Like you have to be able to let that emotion be there and it's gonna pop in. Like, it's not like you do this and it's not like my life is magically happy all the time. No, but it's definitely a lot more 50-50. Like, I just accept that I'm going to have bad days sometimes, and that's totally fine. And you know what? Sometimes I wanted to get this many things in my business done and I wasn't able to because I was feeling or having all these thoughts. That's okay. We still do the things, we still have that self-compassion for ourselves. We still let ourselves grow. My biggest view is, if you can, and that's what I work on. If you can sit with like those feelings, which are so raw sometimes, like, you can get a lot of exceptional growth. I guess another area as well, doing it in my corporate life, is just being able to set those work boundaries and explore those thoughts that you are having in, like, you will believe them as circumstances, but they're all just thoughts, and just where they're coming from, because what they end up being, that I don't want to say no because I can't, do this, ends up relating to a root thought related to your self-worth, your value, people pleasing. Let's challenge that at the core. Let's bring it up for what it is, which is a goddamn thought. Let's put it out on the table. Let's challenge that. Let's get you to sit with those uncomfortable feelings as you start to make change. So
yeah, well, that's kind of like a bit of your superpower, isn't it? Like, working with those people in corporate because you've been there, you've done it, like, you've done the crazy hours. And now, because you've learned how to actually manage your brain, because that's what time management is. It's actually managing your brain. And that's what, like, money management is too, by the way, just letting you know on the side there. It's managing your brain, because when you can do that, you can do anything. But like, you have walked that, you've walked that path. You are in corporate, and you've been able to, I mean, you're like right at the beginning of your journey of completely transforming your life, but doing it in a way that serves you. Like, you're still, somebody said to me, oh, who was it? I can't remember who it was, and I feel terrible because, I want to give people credit where credit's due, but they said something like, your 9 to 5 can be your business's biggest investor. So it's like, you're able to do all these things in your business and get your business off the ground, because, like, also your 9 to 5 is your biggest investor. Like, you're in such an amazing, safe place where you have income coming in. I mean, not only income coming in, like more income, because you're getting a promotion, and because you know how to do that now. And like, that's the work. That's the powerful work too, right? When you do the money work, because you work through all that stuff that is a limitation in a way that we don't realize. It's actually blocking so many other areas of our life. But anyway, listen, I reckon we could talk all day, but let's wrap this up. I usually ask my guests, like, if there's any practice or habit or tip that you have around money that you'd like to share, or maybe something even that you've learned, like working with me, that you want to share, that would help our listeners, my listeners.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this one actually, and what I've learned from you was, like, we were talking about like our relationship with money and how we like view it as a person. And from that, I've actually, like, the thing that I do and like I encourage people in regards to money is, so at least try to every day or every 2 days, I just look at my bank account and I get really curious about the thoughts and feelings that I'm having when I look at it. So what I found really interesting was, like, working with you, just how you flip the tables, and you were like, if money was a person, like, how would you treat it? I'm like, oh, I treat it pretty shit. I don't treat it very nice. And looking at all the thoughts I have around it, and like the scarcity thoughts and stuff. So looking at it every day, it's kind of like, it's managing your mind, but it's building all those new neural pathways to abundance. It's looking at, like, this is how much I have. Also sitting with any of the other thoughts that pop up, and maybe I'll write down, like, okay, like, why do I feel like this, etc. Looking at, like, when I have to pay bills differently as well. It's like, well, before I used to be like, I hate bills. Now I'm like, well, actually, I like health insurance. I need that. That's really good if I get into an accident. And how I view that like a lot more differently now, and just building that relationship with money. Like that's like in essence what I found, as well as all the other stuff, but working with you around money, it's like we have such a negative, bad relationship, I feel, typically in society with money and how we view it. And it's just, how do we build a better relationship? You do not realize when you build a better relationship with money, how much more money you just comes to you. It's like, and I think it's not necessarily that it kind of comes to you as in like people just throw money at me in the streets. I mean, you've gone from scarcity to abundance. When you're in an abundance mindset, okay, if I try to be quick here, I think the best way to articulate it is through a metaphor. If money is like a plant, what I was just doing before was shouting at the plant, being like, grow, hurry up and grow. I wasn't nurturing it. I wasn't giving it water. When you're nurturing it, when you're in an abundance mindset, when you're caring for it, when you're looking at it, you're engaging with it, when you're watering it, that's when you get more money starts to, you can see it there. And from that place of growth, and you create like more growth. So yeah, that's probably the one tip. And then the second tip is, like I said before, this is your sign from the universe. Seriously, do it. If you've been thinking about it, this is your sign. Go sign up, get your free consultation. Go work with her, work with Megan. I've gone in 3 months to having no business to having a business and getting promoted at work. Seriously, it is so worth it. It's been amazing to actually just like work with you and challenge those thoughts. And I'm so happy. Like the results that I've created have been amazing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's been so amazing being on the journey with you, Michelle. And I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast, like sharing what you're doing. So tell us where we can find you. Give us all the, your social media, your podcast, tell us all the things.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. So it's just Michelle Kevill Coaching, Kevill with 2 L's, Kevill.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
Don't you worry.
In the notes. You can also find me on TikTok at Life Coach Gal. Look, if you're like me, during lockdown, you signed up. If you want to see funny videos about our thoughts and stuff like that, like I make those. I love doing that. It's my little creative outlet. And my podcast is How to Deal with Big Fucking Feelings, apostrophe in the U. And really, I just talk about like a whole heap of things. Talk about like workaholism, people pleasing, how to deal with perfectionism, tips as well for someone, I guess, like if you're a perfectionist, and like how to set work boundaries and how to manage tasks and stuff like that. Just what I've learned, and I guess how to apply that and work with that for you. Yeah, so that's where you can find me.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for coming on and just sharing all your wonderful goodness. I think you are just an incredible example of what is possible when we get out of our own way, and like we're just really willing to look at our stories and challenge them and create new ones. So yeah, I'm thrilled that everyone's going to know about you and hear your podcast and come and sign up with you and get coaching. Like, just, if this is what you can create in 3 months, holy shit. I've got my eye on you, like in 12 months time, taking over the world. Amazing.
Well, yes, I gotta work on those thoughts, I keep going from there. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me as well. Like, this has been amazing. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. All right. Michelle is an incredible woman and an example of how quickly you can rapidly, and I mean rapidly, transform your life. You have to go out and check out her podcast, How to Deal with Big Fucking Feelings. I'm going to put all the details on the Money Mindful website. It'll be moneymindful.com.au/podcast91. We are so capable of creating the life that we want. Like teaching the process to do this is exactly what I do with my clients. It's exactly what I've done with Michelle. If you would like to get help with this and rapidly transform your life like Michelle has done, go and book a consult with me on my website. So this free consultation alone is so valuable because I help you identify straight away what is getting in the way of the life you want, and I show you the pathway to get that. But in the meantime, I am running another free open money coaching call tonight. That's 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to get started right away with changing your thoughts about money, go and register now. Go right now to moneymindful.com.au/podcast91. There will be a link in the show notes for how you can register for tonight's call. Get on it, get there. Let me help you with those thoughts that you have around money. I would love to coach you and help you. But in the meantime, have a beautiful week. Until I see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Money Mindful podcast. For more info, visit moneymindful.com.au. For future episodes, be sure to subscribe. And remember, the information in this podcast is of a general nature only and does not take into account your personal circumstances or goals. Please seek professional advice for your own financial needs. Remember to have fun along the way.